What's up, all my fellow horror guys and gals? It is an important weekend for us because Evil Dead Rise is finally opening nationwide. I got a chance to see it last night, so it's time for another movie review because whenever a big-time horror film, or really any horror film for that matter, that I get a chance to catch, you know I'm going to throw up my thoughts. Let's get into Evil Dead Rise. Two sisters find an ancient book that gives birth to bloodthirsty demons that run amok in a Los Angeles apartment building and thrust them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable. All right, look, guys, so Evil Dead as a franchise, we go all the way back to the early 80s. The thing that I see a lot of people that kind of speak against the new versions of the Evil Dead that we've seen is that it's missing kind of the humor, it's missing the comedy, and in some cases, it's missing Bruce Campbell.
Groovy.
Some people just can't let go of that if they're like deep, true fans of the Evil Dead franchise. This is a spoiler-free review, but one thing I just want to say about Evil Dead Rise and about the franchise in general is that I personally have taken a liking and really a preference to this new kind of darker, horrific tone with this film, and even more so with Fede Alvarez's version in 2013, which was somewhat of a remake of our original Evil Dead film. Just a lot more scary and a lot more bloody. Now, what director Lee Cronin did here is he kind of kept the same tone of Alvarez's film. It is a very dark, brooding, gloomy movie. And I'm not talking about just the subject matter, which frankly is the only real negative about this film, is that there's nothing really new invented here. Some people find the Necronomicon, they are dumb and they open it, they read from it or have passages read from it, bad stuff happens, deadites show up, people start turning, people start dying. It's a very formulaic script, which is probably the weakest part of Evil Dead Rise, and really the only negative I have to say about the movie. Now, I didn't like it quite as much as I enjoyed the 2013 film. In fact, a lot of people raise their eyebrows when I tell them that Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead from 2013 is my favorite of the franchise. That remains the case. However, this one is in the running on rewatches. I feel like it's going to get a little bit better each time. The opening sequence of this movie, I'm not going to tell you guys anything about it. Some of the stuff got seen in the trailers. I love the homages to the original. We have a lot of the same type of camera work with the fast POV shots that Sam Raimi really revolutionized the horror genre by introducing us to those in the early 80s. We get a lot of those callbacks, but we also get a badass sequence kind of introducing us to what's about to unfold in the movie. And the titles, the opening title card to this film. Guys, an absolute chef's kiss. Bravo to Lee Cronin. Bravo to the editors. Bravo to the cinematography. I absolutely adored that. I said in my instant reaction coming out of the theater that I couldn't wait for that opening 30 seconds or whatever to be on YouTube so I could literally just watch it on a loop. Now, after the opening title sequence, we start to get introduced to some of our main characters in the high rise, which is essentially our mother, Mommy, that we've seen in all the trailers, so this is not a spoiler. She's the first to really turn and become the evil in the movie, one of our deadites, and that's the character of Ellie, portrayed by Elisa Sutherland, an actress that I was not familiar with. But going on what I saw in the trailers, it really just kind of extends to the film here. And she does a really, really good job. Not only is she scary and kind of unorthodox in the way she kind of approaches the character, but also prior to her turning, I think Lee Cronin and the actors and even the kid actors, who I actually enjoyed all of them, especially the little girl in this movie, Cassie, portrayed by newcomer Nell Fisher. But we get a connection to them as a family. And it actually works in a very short amount of time. They're this kind of band of misfits, these gothic kind of horror nerds themselves. The mother has tattoos. Her sister Beth, who we get introduced to, who ultimately kind of slides into the final girl role in this movie. She's like a guitar technician who follows punk rock bands around a nightclub. So it's that kind of group of folks. And the kids themselves all kind of have their weird things that they're into. And none of them are really like mainstream, kind of like bookworm stuff that you would think from these young children. And like I said, it kind of works. Like I really did connect to this family. And even though I knew that our mom was going to be an antagonist based on the trailers, I don't know. I still was kind of like, this is sweet. Now, after that initial 5 to 10 minutes or so of us kind of connecting with the family, different stories, when the Necronomicon shows up in the parking garage of the high-rise building, from that point until we really see our first evil show up in the movie in the high-rise, there was a bit of a lull for me. It was probably 15 to 20 minutes or so. Stuff happens for the plot, and it kind of dragged on for me a little bit, is because it was the same story, right? Every Evil Dead movie, for the most part, has really had that same foundation of the Necronomicon, the evil being unleashed, and then kind of possessing whoever is going to end up being our main villains in the movie. But once we get through that lull, once the Deadites start to show up, once Mommy turns in this movie, Ellie, once Beth has to take on that mother figure for her sister and try to protect these kids, I would say from about the halfway point till the end of this film, I was in love. The amount of blood that Lee Cronin and the crew uses in this movie, thank you. You could tell it was practical for the most part, and I absolutely adored it. There's a call out to The Shining in this movie, which is also seen in one of the trailers with the blood on the elevator aesthetic, which I thought was done really well. Our two final girls, and I do say two because we have our young girl that I mentioned earlier, Cassie, and then we have our main final girl, Beth. They were freaking awesome. I absolutely loved them. The little girl was really, really good in this. And I know kid actors are divisive for horror fans in a lot of ways, but she absolutely nailed it. Guys, this movie is fantastic if you are a horror fan. If you do not mind blood and gore, and you don't mind sitting through about maybe a 20-minute lull of kind of the usual stuff in The Evil Dead, then you're going to love Evil Dead Rise. I would recommend seeing it in the theater, which I was lucky enough to do. One thing I will say to anyone that might watch this that has anything to do with future installments of The Evil Dead, and if Lee Cronin keeps making these movies, I'm behind that 100%. I thought he did a great job. And like I said, I kind of appreciate this aesthetic a little bit more than the slapstick comedy aesthetic from the 80s, even though I love those movies. But I would ask, let's do something different with the Necronomicon. It doesn't have to be the same kind of pages translated onto screen. There could be different stuff. We know the Necronomicon has the ability to give us time travel. Why haven't we done that yet? There's so many different things that could be explored and could be done. And I'm kind of surprised, with the exception of a couple here and there, that it hasn't been done. And in wrapping up this review, before I give you my score, I just want to say that The Evil Dead and Scream, I would say, are the only two horror franchises that I can think of that have no duds. Every movie is on the good side. There are no bad films in the Evil Dead franchise, and in my opinion, in the Scream franchise either. This is another home run. This is another good movie. It could have been great if they'd done some new things and it hadn't been the same story kind of played out for us. All the horror effects, the CGI, I can't talk about it because I can't give away spoilers, but there is some CGI in the last act of this film that was a little wonky. That's a technical gripe that doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the movie. I absolutely loved it, in case you guys can't tell. Out of 100, I'm going to give Evil Dead Rise an 84. It is a definite recommend for me. The more of a horror fan you are, the more you will enjoy this. And if you just like being scared at the movies, grab your boyfriend or girlfriend, your husband or wife, and go check it out. All right, that's it, guys. I'm so excited I got to talk about Evil Dead Rise with you. I also threw up a trailer reaction tag on this video. Make sure you check that out, because when I saw this trailer initially, I was in an absolute daze of euphoria. Please subscribe to this channel, and I'll be back soon. I'll see you next time in the garage.